Emily, I'm so excited to have you here. The only issue is I have so many things that I want to talk to you about, whether it's sleep training, business growth, motherhood. So it's just going to be a mishmash of all of those things today.
I'm so excited to get into it all. And you got the pink memo as well. We're both in
Yeah.
like matching pink.
For people that can't see me, like my whole office is pink. Like pink is me. Pink is everything. I have pink pillows,
Okay,
like pink walls.
awesome. I'm on brand today. Amazing.
Yes, yes. So you are the sleep chief. Before we dive into all of the things business growth, like I really do actually want to talk about sleep training. I know it's not going to maybe resonate with every single listener, but it's something I'm actually really passionate about. And I think, well, I'm definitely a huge advocate for because I went from waking up every 2 hours and not realizing how negatively I was affecting my mental health and my well-being to actually having a daughter that slept through the night because of sleep training. So, can you just share a little bit more about what sleep training is for those that maybe have a misconception about it?
Yeah, that's so, so true because like what I've learned really since starting my business is that people's perception of sleep training is there's such a wide opinion of it. And I think a lot of people's negative perception of it is tied with quite an old school approach to sleep training, where essentially, you know, no shade on our parents, like when you know better, you do better. But I think that old school approach of kind of like saying goodnight, closing the door, and not going back. I think a lot of people just think that's what we're talking about when we're talking about sleep training. And as I said, when you know better, you do better. And the way that we work with baby sleep now is so much more detailed, so much more data driven, so much more sophisticated, really. And most importantly, is so much more kind. So
Mm,
really, we're looking at what is happening in the daytime, when they're sleeping in the daytime, when they're feeding. Are the feeds optimized? How is their sleep environment? With the room that they're sleeping in or the crib that they're sleeping in your room. Is everything there completely optimized for baby sleep? And when all of that is working together, then I'm not saying the nights just fall into place, but it really is like a case of like looking at the whole picture.
mm,
And yeah, the reading that I did and how I got into the whole sleep training business was I just went really nerdy and really deep on it when I was pregnant with my son, and really started working on his sleep from the beginning. I'm not saying like from day one we were like on a schedule, but within a few weeks we had started a routine and we were really, really conscious about his sleep, and really kind of like thought about each kind of aspect of it. And lots of people will kind of comment and say things like, oh, you just got lucky, or you had a little
mm.
unicorn there. And I think, oh my goodness, it's just not true. I wouldn't have a business if that were true, if it was just a one-off situation with my son. But the reason why I love it so much, and now I'm in year 4 of my business, is just like you said, it has such a life-changing impact on particularly the mum, but the parents.
Mhm.
It's not just about the sleep, it's about what that sleep brings. The,
Yeah.
the the better life, the better experience of motherhood and of parenthood, the feeling that, you know, it's not just like there was your old life and this is your new life now. And it's all about
Mhm.
just being sleep deprived. It's like you can still have that feeling of being yourself, of doing things for yourself, of getting time for yourself during the daytime, not everything being about the baby.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, having a schedule is just a game changer. And I'm not somebody who naturally maybe gravitates towards that. So it was like a very new thing for me to even learn to live by a schedule in that sense. But I mean, we know exactly when our daughter's going to sleep. Like it's clockwork now. And that is a game changer, not just for me, but for our relationship, even, and the time we get together in the evenings and the time I get during the day to catch up with things or just put the dishes away and different things like that. But in the beginning, so we actually for the first 4 months we thought we had a unicorn child. We were like, we better not tell any other parents. Like we're doing great. Like she's sleeping. And then 4 months hit and it was like all hell broke loose. And I just basically stopped sleeping through the night. We thought that we were optimizing, and it wasn't until we started to do sleep training that that really shifted. So, what are some of the key things that you think, especially when you start working with a family, like that we tend to miss and not realize have a huge impact on a kid's sleep?
Yeah. Oh my God. Firstly, your experience is so common. I can't even tell you. Lots of parents do, yeah, get lured into that kind of false sense of security in the first 3, 4 months.
Yeah.
And then around 4 months is when baby sleep cycles actually change and they become more like adult sleep cycles. But how it presents with a lot of babies is that they start waking more frequently.
Mhm.
And things like feeding to sleep or rocking to sleep that were working so well previously suddenly stop working. And, previously you could get your baby to sleep on you, you put them down into the crib and they would stay asleep 3, 4, 5 hours. Suddenly you put them down in the crib, they're awake within 45 minutes. These are the really, really common signs that you're in a 4 month regression, and really common things to see around that age. Basically, as they're getting older as well, they're simply becoming more alert and more aware of their surroundings. So when they're tiny, they're basically sleeping around the clock. And then when they get a little bit older, a little bit more alert, a little bit more aware, they're aware that I fell asleep on a human and now I've woken up somewhere different. So they're
Yeah.
going to alert you that, am I okay? Am I safe? Right? I'm in the crib before I was on your chest or before I was in
Yeah.
your arms. So one thing that I really love to get parents to think about is like, what do we want our babies to think about the crib from the beginning? We don't want we don't want to have to trick our babies into going into the crib, right? The
Mm.
crib is the best place. It's the most comfortable place for them. I mean, obviously our chest is very comfortable as well.
Yeah.
But the crib is a wonderful place for them, and it's obviously a super safe place for them to be sleeping as well. So, it's about not necessarily tricking your baby into going in there, right? It's not like we have to get them to sleep and then we have to slowly bomb disposal expert put them down without them being aware of it so that they will go in there. No, like
Yeah.
what I'm working with parents on is, let's get your baby used to falling asleep lying down in their crib from the beginning, because
Yeah.
at the beginning, when they're tired, if you put them down and they're in the right environment, quite often they will just fall asleep. But the amount of parents that I work with who literally have never tried doing that,
Yes.
and I
I was one.
suggest to them, why don't you try putting them down
Mm.
awake? And it's like the weirdest thought for a parent, even though us as adults, we lie down awake and then we
Yeah.
get ourselves to sleep after
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes or sometimes longer. So it feels very like groundbreaking to say, do you want to just try putting your baby down when they're tired, and giving them some comfort if they need it, right? Giving them some extra support if they need it, but actually encouraging them to get themselves to sleep lying down in their crib. Because if they do that bit at the beginning of the sleep, then they are much more likely to be able to get themselves back to sleep when they're coming in and out of sleep cycles during the night. So that is often the piece which most parents are missing, is that they are doing sleep for their babies
Mm.
rather than the baby doing sleep for themselves. So with Jago, my son, for example, like from the beginning, we would, quite often when he was looking like he's ready for a nap, is just simply put him down. And because we
Mm.
were doing that really from when he was born, there was no getting him used to that. There was no sleep training later on because that was his normal. It wasn't that we never held him. It's just that we did a combination of both so that it was normal for him from the beginning.
Yeah, honestly, that was the biggest game changer for us. And yeah, it makes total sense. But before you hear it, you're like, don't think about it that way because they're a baby. And so exactly what you said, I was rocking her to sleep. I was soothing her with the boob. Like anytime she was stirring, it was breast milk, it was rocking, and then I'd put her back and then wake up an hour later. And so, literally, the game changer was she was learning to put herself back to sleep, which meant she didn't need me every single time. And within 3 nights, she was self-soothing. And it's like, I think the misconception people have with sleep training, although maybe I feel like that's changing, is that like you're neglecting the child. But actually, the way
Mm.
I look at it is like, my daughter needs to sleep. She needs to be able to sleep through the night. Like, if she's waking up, we're both waking up. We're both not getting the sleep that we need. She needs that for development. Like, her learning this important life skill of learning to put herself back to sleep is the most nurturing thing I think we can do.
That so much feedback that we get from parents after they have finished working with us is that the change in the demeanor of the baby during the day, and how much crying there is during the day, and their energy levels during the day is completely different to how it was before. And I think people aren't or parents aren't necessarily aware that, like, that isn't normal what you're experiencing right now during the daytime. Lots of parents will describe their baby to me as she's really clingy or he's really clingy,
Mm,
and really whingy, and it's all just simply tiredness. It's not their
yeah.
personality that is clingy or whingy. But yeah, I mean, the other thing I feel like with parents and their attitudes towards sleep training is that, honestly, like, sleep deprivation really affects different parents differently. Some parents we work with, they've they've really been dealing with sleep deprivation for years, and they've been getting through, and they've been still able to work, and they're still functioning pretty highly, right?
Mm,
And then you have other parents who, if they don't get sleep, it's pretty much anxiety and depression is going to come pretty
yeah.
quickly. Like, it really is so important for those parents. So there's a lot of I mean, judgment really within the industry, and people feeling quite polarized about it. But I think applying how you feel about your sleep to a different parent is wrong, because it really does. I mean, I look at me and my husband, like, if we both have a bad night's sleep, I'm a much better person in the morning than he is. Yeah,
Same. Oh my gosh, same.
he needs his he needs his sleep a little more than I do. We both need it, but definitely there's a difference there. So yeah, I think that's the other thing. How are you without sleep? And if you are an awful version of yourself, and you really struggle to be able to parent kindly and calmly in the day without sleep, then that's also another factor. Is like, how do you want to show up for your little one? Do you want to have all that patience to do the kind of gentle parenting thing, and to be the patient, kind, loving version of
Yeah.
yourself that you want to be for your baby? And if sleep is holding you back from that, or the lack of sleep is holding you back from that, then there is a way to really improve that.
Yeah. You kind of raised my next question. I'm just really curious because you work with so many parents, what your views are on this. I think I have a feeling what they might be. How can parents be working together with this? Because I know I'm not alone in feeling like the sleep factor really was on my shoulders as the mother versus my husband. One of them being like he cannot really function without a full night's sleep. And I just carried on. Um,
And he wasn't lactating, rather selfishly as well, right?
yes, exactly. And it's like, I just like what are your like tips on how I guess the partners can support one another so each individual isn't feeling like it's all on them?
Oh, such a good question. The first thing that I really like to get parents to do when I'm working with them is to, if we're following a routine, is to get that routine printed and on display somewhere, on the fridge or in the kitchen, in the bedroom. I mean, this little psycho had one taped up in the bedroom and in the kitchen that changed every 2, 3 weeks to when my baby was born. But the thing is, quite often, if even if you as mum has downloaded a guide or you've got some kind of course. It's probably on your phone or in your emails, and your partner doesn't know what that is. So it's still sat with you. And, that mother load, it's real, right?
Yeah.
That mental load that we're carrying it really is a thing. So the sooner we can get that routine printed, and even if it's a plan, even if you've written it, by hand, if you can make that clear and put it somewhere in the house that both partners can see, that is a game changer. Because generally speaking, the partner wants to know what they're doing without having to ask you, because quite
Mm.
quickly that dynamic turns into you're the mum to the baby and you're also the mum to the partner. And that ain't sexy. So if
No.
we can just print that out, and we can put it somewhere that both partners can see it, suddenly both are feeling like they're a team, and they
Mm.
both can look at that plan and say, okay, it's 11 a.m. Therefore he should be going down for his nap, or it's 9 a.m. Let's get that feed ready, whatever it is. They
Yeah.
they both know what is going on. I really think that is a great strategy for
Yeah.
parents. The other thing is we love to get both partners involved, because quite often mum is feeling super, super anxious around sleep, or is heightened in terms of their anxiety around working on sleep, settling, making changes to sleep. Meanwhile, dad or the other partner quite often is feeling less anxious. Or
Mm.
it might be the other way around, but usually there is one that's feeling a little bit more anxious than the other. Usually it's mum. And in those circumstances, I will really try and get dad to kind of project manage that first
Mm.
bit of sleep training, and for mum to just take a back seat, and just having mum one step removed quite often is a big help with working on
Yeah.
sleep. Because firstly, your baby thinks they are the same body as you up to 8 months,
Mhm.
right? So if you are feeling anxious, then you bet your baby is going to be picking up on those vibes too. And so if you feel like, oh, I'm just going to be like about it, see if your partner is up for being involved. Because I don't know about yours, but mine was like way more chilled when it came to the crying. Like obviously it still
Yeah.
affected him, but it goes through mum in a different way often than it does the other partner. So we quite often will say, right, mum, get out of there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just let dad do that first bit of kind of getting you over the first hurdle. Because when you're working on sleep, it tends to be that the first night or two is the hardest bit, and then it's getting
Yes.
much, much easier after that. So even if we can have mum just take a step back for that first little bit, then dad is super, super useful in that. I
Yeah.
um I did a reel recently about this, and I am getting like daily comments from the dads, the unevolved dads in the comments. Because I really think that, there's this kind of rhetoric that dad having work the next day kind of means that he can't be helpful for sleep training. And I
Yeah.
truly believe, and thank God my husband does as well, that looking after the baby is harder than most jobs, right?
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, coming doing my work is a holiday compared to looking after
Yeah.
my
Mhm.
son for the day. And I mean, especially when he was younger as well. So the key thing is, it's like, if you're the partner and you're just saying, right, I can't work on sleep, I can't help you because I have work the next day. If you can temporarily sacrifice that,
Yeah.
you will get the good sleep happening much quicker. Because quite often mum is not able to do the sleep training on her own. So if dad can come in there, and quite often I'll get parents to start on a Friday so they have like the full weekend ahead of them. There's not the worry of work the next day. But if you can work on it as a team, you get the sleep quicker.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I was like, start on a Friday because honestly, I think within 3 nights she was sleeping through the night. And whenever I would go into the room, the instinct was mummy's gonna pick me up and mummy's gonna breastfeed me. And so while we were working through that, like she didn't have that instinct when dad walked in. She was like, oh, dad's just gonna rub my back and I'm gonna go back to sleep. So yeah, I completely agree. Like, especially those first few days, dads need to get involved, or like a family member, like have a family member stay over that isn't mom that can help with it as well. I think my mom was
Totally.
actually staying at the time, so I think she had to get involved as well.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah,
Mm.
if there's other family members or caregivers that can follow the plan and be consistent, that is amazing. But yeah, especially when there is that really strong breastfeeding to sleep association, it is so much harder for mum to do the settling. Quite often the baby's cry will be way more intense and they'll cry for longer if it's mum than if it's another partner or caregiver. Yeah, it's
These are such
real.
Oh yeah, these are such good tips. It's definitely bringing me back to those nights. But we made it through. I would really love to talk about the business though, because I'm just fascinated by your business growth and your journey. And I've heard a little bit about it on another podcast, but when did you know that this was actually a business for you? Because obviously it began as something like, something important for you and your family, which it evolved into.
Yeah. So as I said, I kind of decided when I was pregnant that I just had this, I got this thought in my head that there was going to be a way that I was going to be able to work on my baby's sleep from the beginning. And that was the thing that my husband and I were the most fearful about was the sleep deprivation.
Mhm.
And I think I have that annoying thing in my brain, which is like when everyone says something's going to be like really bad, I'm like, I'll find a way, like,
Mhm.
leave it with me. So I just got it into my head that there was going to be this way to work on sleep. And I did all this reading and kind of like, as I said, went quite deep on the subject and then just started to put this plan into place once he was born. And he was born March 2020. So yeah, March 2020. So start of lockdown. And within a few months, I mean, by month 4, he was sleeping through the night consistently 12 hours. And I was talking to friends at the time with little ones. Their experience was completely different to mine. What I noticed quite quickly was that when I started to like tell them what I was doing, give them advice, there was like this wall up, quite like, I don't know, almost like a prickly topic that that's great for your baby, but mine is different. And I was
Mm.
like, this is so interesting because even, you know, friends that trusted me, that knew me, they weren't just like really willing to take advice on the topic. It was like, you almost have to be an expert to give somebody advice on this topic. It seemed like to me, at the time, before lockdown, before I went on maternity leave, I was working in marketing. I was freelance marketing for the hospitality industry. And then obviously lockdown, all the restaurants and bars were closed. There was no work to be found there. So I was like a little bit of a like, I'd found this thing that I was really good at. There wasn't any work, in my previous kind of work to be found. So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to do a qualification. I've got time. He was napping so exactly like you're saying, like clockwork. Every day I was getting like 45 minutes in the morning, over 2 hours at lunch. Like I had the time to do something else. His bedtime was like consistent 7 p.m. every single night. So I just decided I'm going to do this qualification and just what's the worst that could happen.
Yeah.
Once I got qualified, I just started doing a few kind of mums from the baby class that I was going to. And I think I did 3. And then each one was getting progressively better and better. And I just decided after the third, right, I'm going to push my website live and I'm going to start charging clients full price. And quite quickly, I would say within maybe like 2 or 3 months, I knew that this was like for sure a business, and
Mm.
it was growing, growing quite quickly. I started off saying to my husband, I only want to work 2 days a week. And then I was like, actually, I think I want to do 3 days a week. And then I was like, I think I want to do 4 days a week. So I was just, the demand was there and it was really hard to say no because I was loving the work. I could see something was growing quite quickly. I could see something I was really good at. And that's obviously a lovely feeling. And helping people was just such this like fuel of the business as well. Like getting to see that within a week you are transforming people's lives, and getting that instant feedback as well from parents where they really are evangelical once they've worked with you. So yeah, within a year I had more work than I could handle, and started to expand the team from there, and now we are year 4, just coming up to 4 years, and the team is now 6.
Wow.
So
Wow. That's huge. That's like huge growth.
yeah.
And it's quite rare for within 2 to 3 months for you to be like, this is like to the demand to be that high in typical businesses.
Mm.
There's normally a longer period. What would you attribute that to, do you think? Like, where were you finding those clients? How did that stream really start to flow in that beginning stage?
Part of me thinks that for sure it was a really good time for my business to start and to get that momentum. It was a lot of people sat at home. I
Mm,
think it was like winter time in the UK, so very depressing weather, which
yeah.
honestly now I can tell you in year 4 really lends itself to my business. When the weather is bad, people are more likely to book. When the weather is good,
Wow.
they can get through the day. But yeah, so it was that. It was people at home, a little bit more disposable income because no one was
Yeah.
going out, no one was going on holiday. So there was a few different factors that I think really lent themselves, just I guess, environmental, bigger picture
Yeah.
factors. And then for me personally, firstly, I'm bloody good at baby sleep. Like I have to blow my own trumpet there.
Yeah.
Like I knew what I was doing, and I knew that I could really, really help, almost any family. Like I knew I had a really good method that worked. I think from the start was very clued into marketing because of my former career. I did the marketing for high-end restaurants and bars and members clubs in my previous career for 10, 11 years. So I had that background of like how to launch a new restaurant, how to, keep a really like happening restaurant happening,
Yeah.
how to keep it relevant, how to market it year round, seasonally. So I had all of that like marketing knowledge, but I sort of just applied that to myself rather
Yeah.
than, a restaurant like I did previously. I did things like Google advertising from the start, before I had started to build an organic audience on Instagram. I did things like I made sure every single client, apart from, if it hadn't been a great experience, I made sure every single client did a Google review and really made sure that like that testimonial that they were giving me was somewhere public that people could see
Yeah.
it. It wasn't just they've sent it in a script, in a DM to me, or they've sent it in a WhatsApp to me. I was like really like, and I asked, I remember super politely, but I was like, is there any way you could take the time to put that on Google? And
Yeah.
I'm really like wasn't ashamed of asking a couple of times because I just knew the power of that being somewhere public that people
Yeah.
trusted. It's about having that social proof before you've got loads of social proof. Really
Yeah.
making that a priority at the start, I think really, really helped me. I was really paying attention to little details with the branding. I was quite clear about what I wanted the brand to look like, the brand colors to look like, my brand photography. And then with Instagram, I was just super, super consistent.
Mm,
And over time, that consistency has got even more so, and the output has got higher. But yeah, with Instagram, the more consistent I have been and the larger the output I have done, I have just seen it come back to me tenfold.
yeah.
So yeah, I owe a lot to Instagram.
Yeah. And at least you really knew like who you were talking to, not just because like it's obviously sleep deprived parents, but it's also like you were in that boat not that long ago. So you kind of were talking to yourself in that sense. Like,
Yeah.
did that feel like something you were very clear on from the beginning? Like, I know exactly who my target audience is. Because I think that is actually something people struggle a lot with online.
I think I have got more and more clear about that as time has gone on. Before, and I think probably is the case for most new businesses, at the start, you'll just say yes to anyone because you're like, oh my God, someone's willing to give me money. Like, amazing. And at the start, we worked with 0 to 4 years old. And over time, I think how that evolved was, you know, I started taking less what I would call red flag clients, people
Yeah.
that weren't necessarily ready to sleep train, that were, either questioning methods or were very clear that they wouldn't be able to deal with any crying because it is almost impossible to make big changes to sleep without there being some crying. So it was
Yeah.
things like that that when I started to, I guess, hone in on the kind of ideal client more and more. Um, before I would just sort of like think I'm really talking to any tired mum. And then as I went through more time, it is like I am talking to a person like me. That
Yeah.
is my ideal client. And I think that probably is the case for most entrepreneurs, is like they're talking to a version of themselves. So what I mean by that is with someone like myself, I'm like, I want to work with that parent and that especially that mum that almost like wants to work on sleep quite proactively, that is a bit of a control freak, that wants to have, time to themselves during the day, that wants to still have a career, that wants to still have a relationship with their partner, that wants to have a little bit of independence still whilst being a great mom. So, for example, a mum that wants to co-sleep with their parent, which no problem. You have to parent in the way that works for you, but that isn't my ideal client.
Yeah.
I'm more speaking to the parent that really wants to get their baby happy and comfortable sleeping in their own sleep space, whether that's in their crib in the room with you or in their own bedroom. So over time, I have got much, much, much more like zoned in on that exact
Mm.
person that I'm speaking to. And you read it and you hear about it in business books and on business podcasts that it's important to do it. But it's funny that as you actually put that into practice, you realize like, oh no, now I'm really attracting that exact person that I want to work with. And how that kind of manifests in business is people that are a really good fit for our method and our style of working, less complaints, less refund requests, all of that, because it's just like a really perfect fit all round. They're ready for what we are teaching and are so receptive to it as well.
It sounds like when I'm hearing you speak, like from day one, you had a lot of self-belief and conviction about where the business was going. Like thinking back to those beginning few months, did you already picture where this would be 4 years from now?
No, I don't think I did from like day one. I wish I was like that, like super confident. But I think after a little while, then I could definitely see that it had legs. And I think as well, I started to feel like my background in marketing and potentially a little bit like the infancy of the industry in general, it felt like quite a new industry. And I felt like actually, I think my background in marketing, combined with the fact that I obviously know how to get a baby to sleep,
Yeah.
could be a real advantage for me in this space, because I think there wasn't that many people doing the marketing side of things really well. And obviously, there's a lot of people that can help your baby to sleep, but if no one knows about you, it's people have
Yeah.
to know about you in order to work with you. So I think, after a little while, I realized actually this is going to be something which is really a bit of a secret weapon for me, being able to do the marketing side of things. And when I stepped out of doing the day-to-day consultations, which is only really in the last like just over a year, and really stepped into more of a CEO or, lots more time for marketing, that's when I've seen like the biggest growth in my business. But I remember I worked with the first coach that I worked with, I think was within a year or so. And I remember him saying to me, "You're going to have a full-time PA in a year." And I was like, I can't even imagine it. And then now it's like, I can't imagine not having it. Like, so yeah, it's funny. I didn't have that complete, like, this is where I'm going to be in 5 years.
Mm.
But I think now the stage of business where I'm at now is like, it can't not continue to grow. Like, that's, I feel so confident in it now.
Yeah, it really comes across. And we obviously talk a lot about mindset. And so I'm not surprised there's been consistent growth because I hear that in your voice of like, there's just been not determination, but it just sounds like you've not wavered from the direction that you're going. And I'm just curious, like, obviously, since you were growing it with a pretty much a newborn, like, were there challenges that you were facing? Were there beliefs that you had to come up against and work through as you were growing your own business that you're the now face of?
Oh yeah, I mean, God, like the first year of being a parent, even though it was like, looking back, it being lockdown was a great time for me to be able to start my business and not having that kind of like plan B, to go back to, of my old career. It was a blessing, but that first year was a challenge. I mean, within a few months, it became really obvious that my husband was struggling massively with depression and anxiety. I think that lockdown probably did that for a lot of people, but just that forcing of, you need to stop. You no
Mhm.
longer have work. You no longer can go anywhere, and you're pretty much alone with your thoughts, right? And I think for a lot of people, that just like force things to come to the forefront. And so yeah, so I think it was like, yeah, around Christmas time, that I was like, something's not right here. Like, this is
Mhm.
not just a grumpy husband, this is something more is going on here. And we had a really frank conversation, and he was like, yeah, for sure, like, I need to have some counseling and really deal with this. So there was a period there where I was really like taking on the mother load for our house. I was really like taking on the majority of the parenting and the looking after the house and our dog, just being like, you focus on you, I've got the rest of it. I really, like, I'll take care of everything. And at the time, I could, but when after he had some therapy, and after he went on antidepressants, and he was sort of coming back to himself, there was definitely feelings in me of like, you owe me. You owe me for
Yeah.
what I did back then. Like, show me how grateful you are.
Mm.
And so all of that, personal stuff was going on at the same time as launching this business. So even, looking back, I'm so proud that I continued like growing it, because I think it was a good escape for me as well. My husband wasn't like the teammate and the like loving partner that I knew he was before, and he could be again. And so there was part of me that's like, oh, this business is just a little escape for me, and it's like growing, and it's so exciting,
Yeah.
and where could it go? And so I think I almost lost myself in my business when things were a little bit tricky personally. Um, but yeah, I mean, wow, like, on the conviction side of things, I think seeing seeing consistent growth, even if it was like just by a little bit, really like G'd me on. And I think I just was so enamored by the idea of having freedom and not reporting to anyone, and
Mm.
really being the person that was like in control of my financial destiny, and that no one had to promote me
Yeah.
anymore. It was such like fuel for me. That was the biggest driver for me, is like, I don't want to go back there. I don't want to go back to
Yeah.
working in marketing. And even though I had like nice clients when I was freelance, it did not light me up in any way the same as having my own business did. And so I think that was also like always the fire underneath me. I think, fast forwarding to this year, I think as well, having a couple of people external to me, people that I trust, coaches, sort of take the hood off my business and have a look and tell me that I have a great business was also something that really has helped me have conviction. Like, okay, I trust that person. They have an amazing business. I trust that person. They have a great big business.
Mm.
If they're saying I have a good business, like, I have a good business. And
Yeah.
now it's just like, let's go,
Yeah.
operation scale.
Yeah. This is another big reason I was really excited to talk to you because I feel like you're combining an element that is actually quite rare for us as new mothers to have. And it's like, from the outside perspective, it looks like there's a woman who's fulfilled in her business, in her career, but she's also fulfilled as a mother. And I feel like we very often are taught or feel like we have to pick one or the other. And it's kind of like a unique situation for you because both happened simultaneously. And that's quite rare, where what I think often happens is you're thrown into motherhood as prepared as you might be. And suddenly it's like, who am I? Like, who am I now outside of the external achievements and the income level that I was at, or the growth that I was at, whatever it might be, whether you're in a 9 to 5 job or you own your own business. Like, I definitely went through, I'm probably am still going through that transition because I had the business growth prior to having the baby. And then I had a baby and I was like, what do I want? Like, who am I outside of this? And what are my priorities now? And so it's just really interesting to see a version of that happening simultaneously. And like, what are your thoughts on that? The picking of the either or feeling like we can have one or the other.
Oh my God, yeah. It is so weird because I agree with you. Like, I don't see my story reflected very often where,
Yeah.
the massive drive and ambition has come straight after having the
Right.
baby.
Yeah. Often it's the other way around. Like for me, it was the other way around. I was like, I don't have those ambitions right now.
Yeah, I think you are normal and I am a bit of a weirdo, to be honest. But I think, I've definitely had time to reflect on this, and I was talking to a girlfriend about this, and we were saying that like it was almost like my biggest goal before I had my baby and met my husband. My biggest goal was to meet a husband and have a baby. And
Mhm.
it was almost like, I don't know, like I couldn't have that like huge focus on career. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had a great career, but it just didn't light me up. And I couldn't see myself going to the top of that ladder in marketing, in the corporate world. Um, but it was like I had to get the baby and the husband ticked off. Hate to say that, sounds awful,
Yeah.
but I had to have that bit met because it was such a strong desire for me. Like,
Mm.
it really, really was like I could hear my biological clock. I knew that I needed to have that baby. But it was almost like the baby got taken out and this fire
Mm.
got put into my belly, and this drive, to maybe to provide in a certain way. It was
Mhm.
like, maybe I've got that masculine energy in me, too much of it, where like I just got that drive. And I think as well, maybe because my business is so baby related.
Yeah.
It's like I'm literally talking to mums about babies. I mean, it's the most like understanding industry. If ever you've got a
Yeah.
sick baby or what have you, like your clients are going
Yeah.
to understand. But yeah, I think that maybe was a part of it as well, because it wasn't like I was having to take off my mum hat and
Yeah.
put on my suit and go to work. I literally was, giving my baby to my husband, walking up the stairs, getting on Zoom in my jumper, right? So it was still very much like I'm the same person, but I
Yeah.
just figured out this sleep situation, and I knew I could help other mums because we had got, an equilibrium happening. Like you just said, you've got that predictability about your day. You know that you can put your daughter down, and you've got that calm nervous system that knows I can take an hour, 2 hours for myself now. And
Mm.
and being able to give that gift to other mums was like amazing. You know,
Yeah.
it really, really lit me up more than any former marketing role I had had.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes total sense. And especially what you're saying, even about your through line being, I'm going to be a mother and I'm going to have a family, like that really resonates with me massively. And I think maybe that's where that juxtaposition for new mums comes is and this is such a generalization, but maybe there's been that ambition in the career, or there's been that ambition in other places, and then suddenly it's like, oh wait, that wasn't as important, or that isn't important to me anymore, so who am I now? I knew I always wanted to be a mother, like, and my husband could see that from me day one, years before we got married. Like, he knew that was who I was. So that was always a through line for me. But I think in my industry, because I am a money mindset coach and I talk a lot about abundance, I kind of went from not glamorous, but like a certain lifestyle and like uh, probably a certain type of brand, to being like, I've got like food on me from or throw up on me, and I haven't washed my hair in 2 days, and I'm tired, but I'm also still abundant, and I'm also like have a really positive mindset. But it's like, how do I merge those two? And I think that's so hard for so many new mums, of like, how do I merge who I am now with who I thought that I was?
Yeah, you're so right. It's that like trying to be authentic whilst also like I have
Yes.
changed. You know, I have
Yes.
changed. And I think, I guess because I started my business after being a mum, like that was my who I was, right? So I had
Yes.
it,
Yes. Yeah.
but you know, like I've spoken about this recently online as well, is that I think I do think there is a case where like that for some women, you know, motherhood changes them completely from top to bottom.
Mhm.
And I think there are other women where it definitely doesn't change you completely. You're still kind of who you were before. But you've got this amazing human that you love more than anything, but you actually still like doing going out with your girlfriends and you
Yes.
still love going for dinner with your husband. Like it hasn't taken over everything. And I think that is me. You know, I fall into that category. Like I haven't, you know, it's not like I don't recognize the girl I was before. Like I still recognize
Mhm.
her. She's just got a baby, got a boy, and she's, you know, she's a mom now, but she still wants to go out every now and again
Yeah.
and get pissed and dance. Like that's, she's still there.
Yes, yes, I love that. I feel like actually more moms need to like say that out loud and not admit it because there's nothing wrong with it, but just own it actually. Like, I don't actually have to be a completely different person. Like, I still get to do the things that light me up and make me happy, whatever that might be. Definitely.
Totally. I'm yeah, like a big kind of, I guess our mission really is to help parents to unlock that predictable sleep, but
Yeah.
so that they can reclaim like their identity, because so many mums that we work with just feel like they haven't got that anymore. You know, we want to
Yeah.
help them to like feel like themselves again. We want to help them to be able to reconnect with their partner when you feel like we're just freaking housemates right now that are just giving logistics orders to each other. You know, we want to help you to get that time back for you to reconnect with your partner, and so that you can enjoy parenting, so that you can
Yeah.
enjoy your life to the fullest, that it's not
Mm.
just like we're just wading through this parenting journey, like just getting through each day. Like it doesn't have to be like that. And I think, you know, that's the biggest thing that I, you know, really wanted new parents to know is like, this doesn't have to be your reality. Like there is a better way to do this. There's an easier way to do this. And it
Yeah.
doesn't take long to do once you're feeling ready.
And sleep affects all of those areas. It's so much more than just being about sleep. So you're 4 years in, you have had consistent growth. You're 4 years into being a mother. Just curious, like, what does the next stage of growth look like for you? Whether it's business or it's personal, like what are the next things that you're ready to call in or step into this year?
Yeah. So really right now, my biggest thing that I'm focused on with my business is scaling.
Hmm.
You know, I like I said, I've really felt in the last year like, okay, everything really is in place now. I have a business that's working well. I have, you know, funnels, sexy funnels. funnels that are working really, really well. And so now it's about scaling, so it's really those kind of slightly boring things of like, okay, this booking system really worked for the first 2 years, and now it doesn't really work when I have a team of this many people. I've got to evolve that. I've got to tweak this system so that it now works for a team of 6 rather than a team of 2 or a team of 3. The other thing is we're now working with clients literally all over the world. And so my next kind of chapter really is working with sleep consultants, bringing sleep consultants onto the team that are based in different time zones that can offer, text support for those clients in their time zones. Because at the moment, I mean, one of my team is literally working with a client in Dubai and a client in on the West Coast in the same
Yeah.
week. That's a very big time difference. So
Yeah.
so in the business, it's now really great things. Like I'm feeling so blessed that the business is where it's at. And I mean, the growth on Instagram just lately has just been insane. Like it's like suddenly the sort of the formula for going viral, it just seems to have clicked. And that just has meant that so many more parents and so many more ideal clients are finding us. So I just feel like, yeah, that's really my focus is honing the business and getting it ready for scaling more and more, and continuing to speak to our ideal client through content that really is delivering for us. On a personal note, so we are based in the UK right now. We're in the Cotswolds, and it's been on my heart for a long time that I am ready to live in the sunshine again. I mean, as a fellow Brit,
Yeah, I definitely get it. I really
the
do.
UK, yeah, the UK is great in a lot of ways, but the weather is not one
Mm.
of them. And I mean, maybe you've had it before, but I definitely feel it right now is that, life is good. Like my family life
Yeah.
is great, my business is great, I'm healthy, but I know that my soul isn't in the right place. Like
Yeah.
I
Totally.
felt for such a time now that like this is not where I'm meant to
Yeah.
be. And so next year we are moving as a family to Spain. So I'm going
Wow.
to get that vitamin D back in my life, which I cannot wait for. Yeah, so on a personal level, it's just starting to get everything ready to move our life to a different country, to learn a different language. It's
Mm.
it's so strange to think of my son, going to be bilingual.
Yeah.
Um, pretty quickly. So yeah, exciting on the personal front, being able to move hopefully to a place which is going to make my soul feel happy, but certainly make me feel warmer in the short term.
I mean, I just love hearing someone say that they're listening to what their soul is telling them. It's one thing to have that feeling, but it's another thing to actually take the risk and the jump of saying, I'm going to do it. I know that feels scary, but what's on the other side of that will be so worth it. Like, is
Mm.
there a belief or something that you're reminding yourself of as you take that leap, as you move into that next chapter to just keep yourself lit up about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I don't really feel any kind of fear about it. My
Mm,
husband is much more fearful about it. And so whenever we're having conversations, it's almost like I have to temper down my excitement so that
mm,
he can not feel so scared about the
mm,
level of excitement that I have. It's like I have to like almost like, okay, I just need to like reduce it a little bit. I think because I've been feeling this way for probably like 2 3 years, like ready to live in the sunshine again. We met in Dubai, David and I, so we've both had that experience of living elsewhere. We both wanted to move back to be close to family and be close to friends. And I think that when we had our son, I think that was amazing having that close by. And I think now that he's a little bit older, and we lost my husband's mum last year, and that was a real big shake up for us. I mean, I
mm.
remember like in the days afterwards, we were driving home and we just both sat in the car and said to each other, we can't wait to do the things that we really want to do anymore. Like we
Yeah.
can't put the things off that we really, really want out of life, we have to just get clear and then we have to go for it. We can't sit on things anymore. And I think as awful as it was such a big like wake up call and a big like refocusing of, you know, what do we really want out of life? Like zooming out, like what do we want out of life? Where do we want to raise our family? Like what kind of like week to week life do we want?
Yeah.
And the big thing for me was like I wanted more outdoor living. You know, I wanted to be able to have breakfast outside, to have dinner outside more than a couple of times a year.
Yeah.
So those are the little things that like, you know, it was almost like the place didn't necessarily matter. Like it didn't matter if it was Spain or if it was Dubai or if it was the US. It was like the picture in my mind, like what does that week look like? What does that day to day look like with my family? You know, that outdoor lifestyle. That's what I was really, really focused on. And I guess the other thing is like I moved abroad before and made that massive leap when I was 21, right? I was like, and I
Yeah.
went on my own to Dubai. So, and I just had the most amazing time. So I think my experience of taking a risk like that was great before. So
Yeah.
what's to say it wouldn't be great again? And if it's not,
Yeah.
we'll move back.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love the like just lit up, like aligned feeling that you have. I think, I mean, we moved recently and I think it was a big move with a 5 month old, and people were like, are you not nervous? And I was like, it feels so aligned that I have to just trust that this is the right place to be. And that's what it sounds like for you. It just feels like this is alignment. The excitement is speaking to you. So I am wishing you like the most fabulous experience having your dinners al fresco in Spain.
Oh,
And we'll have
thank
to have you
you.
back on the podcast when that happens.
Do you know what like we've been waiting to see. Basically, what allowed us to be able to move is that my husband um got relocated to Gatwick, and he's going to be part-time there from next year. And we just decided like we don't want to live near Gatwick. If that happens,
Yeah.
then we'll move abroad. And I was so ready for that to happen. So I was like manifesting it hard, right? I
Yes.
was like thinking about us in this dream life every night. Anyway, then he found out and he was like, this was like sixth or seventh on my bidding list, and we still got it. And he was like, God
Wow.
damn you, and you're manifesting. He's like, it's too strong.
Yeah. Oh, he's going to be grateful once he's sitting outside in Spain having a beer with you in the evenings.
Totally, totally.
Well, it has been an absolute joy speaking with you. Like, I feel like we could just keep chatting, but I have to let you go and get back to your family. So before I do, where can people find you? Where can people connect with you, especially if they're looking for sleep training in their lives right now?
Amazing. Yeah, it's been so, so good chatting to you as well. So thesleepchief.com is my website for anyone that's interested in getting some sleep support. And come say hi on Instagram. I'm Sleep Chief UK.
Perfect. I have a few friends who are having babies very, very soon. I'm going to be giving them all your Instagram handle.
Totally. And you know what? We have a pregnancy consultation that I is like my chef's kiss, pièce de résistance, because that is what I did. Do it while you're pregnant. Learn
Mm,
everything whilst you're pregnant before you are in the
yeah,
depths of like the newborn stage, and then just
yeah,
have that beautiful plan to follow from the beginning. I'm such a big
yeah,
believer in working on sleep proactively.
yeah. I love that. Thank you so much for joining us today, Emily.
My pleasure. Thank you.